Good morning, YouTube. Warbles on a lot here for the very dag end of The Outsiders and First Dog on the Moon. If we can find it.
Could have had
There we
locomotion
go.
as her first hit, but there's really nothing I can do about it.
We
So,
see what you're doing there, Ed.
So look, and I think we've also got to remember that, you know, as annoying as this might be for Labor, it's pretty extraordinary that within 18 months they have actually found some unity of purpose.
Well,
and
they will no doubt.
there's this strange irony
Unity
that
of
Bill
purpose with the
Shorten,
government.
They'll hope
That's
to
great.
reinforce that impression, I'm sure. Killing Season on Tuesday night on ABC TV. Thanks to Elizabeth O'Shea, Sarah Martin, and Chris Berg. Back more Outsiders next week. It's time. He's back from leave. Yes, the dog returns.
Are you sick and tired of Senate estimates? I know I am. Had your fill of listening to the whinging and whining of people who aren't even in government? Perhaps you need something to keep your enormous brain busy while you pretend to care. Be like Senator George Brandis.
Hello.
And keep yourself occupied while the important but deadly dull machine of government accountability grinds on. But you've got to do it right. Now, while the Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade answers questions about humanitarian aid to Gaza, how about playing in a jumping castle? Whee! 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 Woo! Nice try, George, but that's not right. You could try reenacting famous sword fights from history.
Oh, take that, D'Artagnan. Minister, no sword fighting in the Federation chamber. Ah, I'm not allowed to have any fun at all.
And it's not like anyone ever says anything useful or interesting in Senate estimates, or maybe they do, but nobody's listening. You're the Attorney General. If you have to bother showing up, you can at least do something useful with your time. Why not try a truly egalitarian pastime? Enjoying some traditional Australian bush poetry. This stuff is so Aussie, it actually rhymes. It's good enough to keep even the most ADD AG amused for hours of estimates, like this classic.
There was movement at the station.
And everyone remembers.
There was a young man from Nantucket.
Thanks to a lavish grant from the Australia Council, the First Dog on the Moon Institute is proud to present this magnificent set of 45 keepsake heirloom hand-tooled leather-bound volumes, the George Brandis Golden Treasury of verse, poetry, sonnets, ballads, and bawdy limericks. Order now and receive the bonus DVD of the Brandis Bower. The Attorney General reads some of his treasured favourites, like this from E. Cummings.
I will wade out till my thighs are steeped in burning flowers. I will take the sun in my mouth and leap into the ripe air, alive, with closed eyes, to dash against the darkness.
And there's T.S. Eliot.
April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain.
And everyone's favourite, Sylvia Plath.
Unlucky the hero born in this province of the stuck record, where the most watchful cooks go jobless and the mayor's rotisserie turns round of its own accord.
And for a limited time only, the collection includes some of Senator Brandis's own work.
The Attorney General said, I'm known for being well read. The books on my shelf I read by myself, and the rest are all out in my shed.
Order now with 10 easy payments of $250. $15,000 bookshelf sold separately. You're welcome. This has been First Dog on the Moon. Thanks for listening, Patriots. No, that wasn't really George Brandis.
That's it for RN Sunday Extra today. The Sunday Extra podcast, that's on iTunes or on the website. But you can also get that last exciting...
Okay. So Tony Abbott has moved further down his track, which is that anybody who takes up arms or weapons against any Australian because of who they are is not part of our club, and they're not fit to be called Australians, and they should have their citizenship stripped at the act of the whim of the immigration minister, without actually having to charge them with anything, without actually having to tender any admissible evidence, without having to convict them of anything, without them having to have been sentenced. If the Minister for Immigration thinks that it would be in the public interest for such a person to be declared a non-citizen, then they just should lose their citizenship rights. So far, they're not talking about extending this marvellous democratic boon to people who were born in Australia and have never had any eligibility for citizenship elsewhere. But if you're born in Australia and you've got an English or American or Argentinian, for example, father, yeah, you're eligible until you're about 25. If you've got an American citizen for a father, you're eligible for American citizenship. You've got dual citizenship until you turn 21 or 25. And then you have to pick, do you want to be an Australian, do you want to be an American? I have two cousins who were in that situation, and they both chose to be Australians. But if one of them, at say age 23, had decided that they wanted to go and get their Beau Jest fantasies out of their system by, I don't know, fighting with the PKK, the Kurdish militia who were fighting against Bashar al-Assad in Syria, who were being armed by the Americans and having airstrikes flown for them by the Australians. But if an Australian was to go over there and help the PKK by putting on band-aids and then come back to Australia, bingo, they could lose their Australian citizenship because they're eligible to apply for American citizenship. Now, would the Americans take them after the Australians have said, oh, you were in a designated terrorist area and you were fighting in a civil war and you were not fighting on the side of the designated government? That's one of the other hooks in this little bloody law. Australian citizens who have dual Israeli citizenship can be called up to go and help, suppress the Palestinians in Gaza. And that's okay because they're fighting in a civil war or an occupation or a genocidal extermination program with the world's biggest prisoner of war camp, or whatever the hell the Zionists want to call that. They're allowed to do it. The people from Sydney and Melbourne and all over Australia who reckon they got the right to return to Israel, so they've got to go and fight in the army for 2 years. They're allowed to do that because they're fighting on the side of a recognised government. What if some Australian decided to go and fight on the side of Bashar al-Assad, who still is the official legitimate government in Syria? He might be besieged and lots of people hate him and he's acting like an arsehole, dropping 44-gallon drums of impromptu explosives out of helicopters because he hasn't got a Boeing factory or a Lockheed factory to build him laser-guided air drag bombs. He hasn't got the delivery systems for elegantly engineered weapon systems, but he's got diesel and he's got nitrate fertilizer and he's got dynamite and he's got detonators, so he can build a barrel bomb, and somebody's supplying him with helicopter spare parts and fuel. So if an Australian goes over there and fights on the side of the recognised government, even though it's pretty much the side, well, it used to be the side everybody wanted to get rid of, but now the fact that he's fighting against ISIL means that Bashar al-Assad's apparently not also bad. Oh, it's complicated, this Middle Eastern politics. It's really complicated. I think Malcolm Turning Bull and Barney Baby Joyce, and I hate to say it, Corey Barnardi, the bastarnati from South Australia, like the extreme lunatic right-wing Jesuitical Catholic, they represent the voices of reason in the Australian government at the moment because they're saying, oh, well, look, actually we have courts. You know, we have criminal laws. It's against the law for Australians to be over there. Surely if there's any kind of evidence that they've been breaking the Thou Shalt Not Fight in Foreign Wars Act, we can just bring them back here and charge them. You know, these dickheads are putting it up on Facebook. How hard is it to get a conviction? We have courts for that. We can put them in jail. Oh, no, says Tony Abbott. If you take up arms against any Australian because of who that Australian is, then you're not fit to be an Australian. Well, how long is it going to be before the Parliamentary Liberal Party in one of the states or territories, if not in Canberra, decides that, oh, well, you know, you committed that break and entry because of who the person who owned the house was. They had a job, they had a bank account, they had a house worth robbing. You only committed the robbery because of who they were. You're not fit to have Australian citizenship. You criminal scumbag, you stateless person, what can we do with you? This is how Germans woke up one morning and found they were living in a total totalitarian dictatorship run by thugs, people who have no respect for the rule of law, people who have no respect for the separation of powers, you know, the idea that the politicians don't get to administer the justice. And it's pretty much all because of the mindset of the people who got through being educated at St Ignatius Riverview. Apparently some people went to St Ignatius Riverview and emerged with their grip on democracy unscathed, like Barnaby Joyce. Other people went to St Ignatius Riverview and they came out as Jesuitical fascists. And that's Tony Abbott. I don't know where George Brandis went to, or Scott Morrison, or Greg Hunt. But they've got this football thug bully boy attitude where it doesn't matter how you fucking play the game, it's who's standing on whose face at the end of it that matters. And that's how they're trying to play international politics. I thought the biggest news item of the week was probably the fact that Australia got completely grilled and branded and labelled internationally as not only a greenhouse gas pariah, but a freeloader at the United Nations. All these countries all over the world, whether they're developed countries who are, you know, seriously attempting to reduce their greenhouse gases, or whether they're developing countries who are trying to do something other than what the Europeans did when they were industrialising at a great rapid pace, or what the Chinese have done, turning their air into shit that you need an oxygen breather mask to walk around in. Everybody at the United Nations was pointing their finger at Australia saying, you people are bullshit. You're not serious. You're reducing your renewable energy targets because it's harming your coal industry. That's the fucking point of having renewable industries, is to phase out coal. Doesn't matter how much you got or how good you are at digging it out of the ground. Oh, we're being led by idiots. And every country always gets the government they deserve. This is what the Abbottonians voted for. They voted to be led by this dickhead. It's what people voted for, to be sort of smirked at from the sidelines by an embarrassed-looking Bill Shorthorn. Not enough people voted for the Greens. What have the Greens been doing this week? Well, somebody gave evidence, like an employee of the Manus Island Detention Centre, that when the Green Senator Hanson Young went to have a look at the place, the guards were running around spying on her. And the right-wing neo-Nazi fascist press has taken that to mean that the Greens have launched an attack on the detention centre operational management. But it wasn't the Greens who raised the fucking allegation. It was a bloke who used to work there. The Greens were just as surprised at the Senate estimates hearing as everybody else. But oh no, the Anthony Bolts of the world have decided that that's all the fault of the Greens, you know. Oh, somebody gave evidence against the management, therefore it must be the Greenies' fault because the Greenies were the victims. We've got to blame the fucking victims. It's a rape culture. It's Tony Abbott's rape culture. He is the one who said that he would much rather apologise afterwards than ask for permission beforehand and risk refusal. That's what he said. Matter of record. I have videos about it. Tony Abbott's rape culture. And he's rooting Australia. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Approaching the upload limit. Ciao.